The Lotus Sutra, revealing the ultimate truth in Nichiren Buddhism. Welcome, dear friends. Today we venture into the profound teachings of the Lotus Sutra, a pivotal scripture in Nichiren Buddhism, and explore the ultimate truth it reveals to us. As we peel back the layers of this ancient wisdom, we immerse ourselves in a narrative that has shaped the spiritual landscape for countless seekers over the centuries. The Lotus Sutra begins with a significant event, a gathering on Vulture Peak where the Buddha, after a period of silence, prepares to deliver a teaching that promises to turn the very foundations of understanding on their head. Here, we find ourselves in the presence of the Buddha, surrounded by bodhisattvas, arhats, and celestial beings, all eager to hear the ultimate truth. You might wonder why the Lotus Sutra holds such a revered place in the pantheon of Buddhist texts. It's because this sutra encapsulates the final and complete teaching of the Buddha, revealing the possibility of enlightenment for all beings without exception. This inclusivity is a radical departure from earlier doctrines that reserved enlightenment for a select few. The Lotus Sutra teaches that the potential for Buddhahood is inherent in every living being. Consider this: the idea that you, right now as you are, with all your flaws and virtues, possess the seed of enlightenment within you. How does it feel to recognize that you are not separate from the ultimate reality the Buddha speaks of? In Nichiren Buddhism, we find a particularly fervent devotion to the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren, a 13th century Japanese monk, declared that the essence of the Buddha's lifetime of teachings was distilled into this single work. For Nichiren, the Lotus Sutra was not just a text, it was the very lifeblood of Buddhist practice and the key to the salvation of all beings. We are introduced to the concept of Ikinen Sanzen in the Lotus Sutra, which Nichiren expounded upon. This principle asserts that within a single moment of life, there exist 3,000 realms or realities. This profound idea suggests that at any given moment, we have the potential to experience the full spectrum of life's possibilities. Every thought, word, and deed contains the potential for transformation. The sutra unfolds through a series of parables, one of the most famous being that of the burning house. Here, the Buddha describes a house ablaze with children inside, unaware of the danger. The father, knowing the children are fascinated by toys, lures them out with the promise of various carts. Once they are safely outside, he gives them only the best cart, one made of precious materials and pulled by white bullocks. This parable illustrates the Buddha's skillful means, using various teachings appropriate to the spiritual maturity of the audience, but ultimately leading everyone to the one great truth. Now let us delve into the story of the Dragon King's daughter. Remarkably, she achieves enlightenment in mere moments, defying the prevailing belief that enlightenment is a distant goal, achievable only after countless lifetimes of arduous practice. What does this say about the immediacy of enlightenment in our lives? Could it be that we are closer to awakening than we think, that we need only to recognize and activate our innate Buddha nature? The Lotus Sutra also introduces the eternal Buddha, indicating that Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment extends infinitely into the past. This challenges the very concept of time and our place within it. If the Buddha's life is eternal, and if we are intrinsically connected to the Buddha, what does this say about our own lives? Are we not, in some sense, eternal as well? The practice of chanting the title of the Lotus Sutra, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, as advocated by Nichiren, is not merely a ritual. It is an act of aligning ourselves with the rhythm of the universe, the mystic law that the sutra embodies. When we chant, We affirm our innate Buddha nature, our connection to all of existence, and our commitment to the compassionate ideals of the Bodhisattva. As we reflect on the teachings of the Lotus Sutra, we begin to see that truth is not a fixed point, but a lotus unfolding continually within us. Each petal reveals a new aspect of wisdom. Each layer brings us closer to the heart of our ultimate nature. Let's pause here and allow these insights to resonate within us. As we absorb the profound implications of the Lotus Sutra's teachings, we recognize the boundless potential for awakening that lies within each of us. The Bodhisattva's boundless voyage, embodying the infinite compassion of the Lotus Sutra. Resuming our exploration, we align with the Lotus Sutra's next profound teaching, the concept of the Bodhisattva path. Unlike the Arhat who seeks personal liberation, the Bodhisattva vows to delay full enlightenment until all beings are saved. The Bodhisattvas of the earth who emerge in the sutra vow to be born wherever they are needed, tirelessly working for the happiness of others. Think of the significance of this vow. It transcends personal desire and embraces a compassionate commitment to the collective well-being. How might our lives transform if we adopted even a fraction of this selfless spirit? The Lotus Sutra paints a picture of a reality where the lines between self and other blur in the light of compassionate action. It teaches us that our own liberation is deeply intertwined with the liberation of all sentient beings. In a world often driven by individualism, what would it look like if each of us lived with the awareness of our interconnectedness? Nichiren Buddhism places great emphasis on the transformative power of the Lotus Sutra in our everyday lives. It is not enough to understand its teachings intellectually. We must live them, breathe them, and manifest them in our actions. The practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is more than a meditative discipline. It is an active engagement with the universe, a declaration of our intention to embody the principles of the Lotus Sutra. Consider the power of this chant. It is said that through this practice we can turn our karma into mission, our obstacles into opportunities. Every challenge we face is an invitation to deepen our faith and to prove the unfailing efficacy of the Lotus Sutra. How might our perspective on life's struggles change if we viewed them as stepping stones to our personal and collective enlightenment? The Lotus Sutra also presents the idea of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, suggesting that the realms of existence from hell to Buddhahood are not separate planes but interpenetrating realities. This means that the state of Buddhahood is not somewhere distant but present in the here and now within our daily experiences. How might our day-to-day existence change if we recognize the presence of the sacred in the mundane? Nichiren Buddhism teaches us that the Lotus Sutra is a mirror reflecting our true selves. When we chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, we are not calling upon an external force but awakening the Buddha within. This is the ultimate empowerment, the realization that enlightenment is not bestowed from without but discovered from within. The Lotus Sutra's revelation of the Buddha's lifespan being immeasurable is profound. It suggests that the Buddha, like the truth he expounds, is timeless. In Nichiren's interpretation, the Buddha is not a historical figure constrained by time, but an eternal presence that we can access at any moment. What does this understanding do to our sense of time and our identity within it? In the story of the never-disparaging Bodhisattva, we encounter a figure who reveres everyone, bowing to them and declaring their inherent Buddhahood, despite facing ridicule and hostility. This bodhisattva's practice is based on profound respect for the Buddha nature in all. Imagine if we greeted each person with the same reverence, recognizing their potential for enlightenment. How might our relationships evolve? The Lotus Sutra is not a static scripture. It is alive and dynamic, calling us to act with wisdom and compassion. Nichiren Buddhism emphasizes that faith, practice, and study are essential to realizing the sutra's promise. Faith opens our hearts to the possibility of enlightenment. Practice embeds the sutra's wisdom in our lives, and study deepens our understanding and connection to the Dharma. As we integrate the Lotus Sutra's teachings into our lives, we become beacons of hope and courage. The sutra challenges us to rise above our limitations and to see life through the lens of eternity. It invites us to live with a sense of purpose, to contribute to the creation of a peaceful and just world. The Lotus Sutra's message is clear. Enlightenment is not a solitary pursuit but a collective journey. We are all in this together, and our individual awakening is inextricably linked to the awakening of all beings. This understanding can revolutionize the way we approach our life and our world. Let's take a moment to consider the ways in which we can bring the wisdom of the Lotus Sutra into our relationships, our work, and our communities. How can we embody the compassion of the Bodhisattva in our daily interactions? How can we use our unique talents and circumstances to further the happiness of others? As we conclude this part of our journey, we carry with us the profound teachings of the Lotus Sutra, knowing that its wisdom is not confined to the pages of a text but is alive within us. Let's continue to unlock the deeper truths of this magnificent sutra in the next part of our discussion. The unfolding lotus of infinite potential. Continuing our profound journey through the Lotus Sutra, we are reminded that truth is not a static entity. It is dynamic, ever unfolding, like a lotus flower revealing its heart with each new bloom. The Lotus Sutra is a testament to this living truth, and as we delve further, we uncover the layers of wisdom that speak directly to the core of our being. In Nichiren Buddhism, the Lotus Sutra is seen as the ultimate teaching of the Buddha, encompassing all other teachings within its scope. It is considered the pinnacle of Shakyamuni Buddha's wisdom, transcending all sectarian divides. The core message of the Lotus Sutra is that of the single vehicle, or Ikayana, which asserts that there is only one path to enlightenment and that it is accessible to all beings. This is a radical affirmation of equality and inclusivity in the spiritual quest. As we reflect on the sutra's teachings, we find the notion of Buddha nature being central. This concept posits that all beings, without exception, have the potential to attain Buddhahood. This inherent Buddha nature is not something to be created or bestowed. It is something to be realized and manifested. How does this understanding reshape our view of ourselves and others? In the narrative of the Lotus Sutra, we encounter the ceremony in the air, a mystical and symbolic representation of the ultimate truth. The Buddha sits surrounded by a great assembly, floating in the sky, illustrating the transcendental quality of the teachings. The ceremony in the air symbolizes the elevation of consciousness required to comprehend the profound truths of the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra also presents the emerging from the earth chapter, where countless bodhisattvas arise from beneath the ground, ready to receive and carry on the Buddha's teachings in the world. These bodhisattvas signify the emergence of enlightened qualities within us, qualities that have been present all along, waiting for the right conditions to surface. How can we create the conditions in our own lives for such qualities to emerge and flourish? Nichiren's focus on the Lotus Sutra is not simply out of reverence for its philosophical depth. It is also because the sutra offers practical guidance for living a life of purpose and joy. Nichiren teaches us that chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is a means to tap into the life state of the Buddha, to bring forth wisdom, courage, and compassion in the face of life's challenges. The parable of the skillful physician in the Lotus Sutra tells of a wise doctor who cures his children of poison using skillful means. This parable is a metaphor for the Buddha's use of expedient methods to guide beings to enlightenment. It illustrates that the teachings are tailored to the capacities of the audience, always with the aim of awakening the inherent Buddha nature. The Lotus Sutra's message is not merely a call to personal salvation. It is a call to action. It urges us to recognize our interconnectedness and to work for the betterment of all beings. When we chant, we not only affirm our own potential but also send out vibrations of peace and healing to the world. How might our practice contribute to the collective awakening of humanity? In the sutra, the Buddha entrusts the propagation of the teachings to the bodhisattvas of the earth after his passing. This entrustment is significant. It symbolizes the passing of the torch to us, the practitioners who keep the Buddha's wisdom alive through our actions and words. How do we honor this entrustment in our daily lives? The Lotus Sutra's wisdom is not confined to the lofty realms of philosophy. It is deeply relevant to our everyday experiences. It teaches us that every moment is an opportunity for enlightenment, that every encounter is a chance to practice compassion and wisdom. It shows us that the mundane and the sacred are not separate but are facets of the same reality. As we draw this part of our exploration to a close, we carry with us the understanding that the Lotus Sutra is not just a text to be revered. It is a living guide, a map for our journey to enlightenment. It invites us to live with a profound sense of purpose, to transform our lives and our world through the power of its teachings. In the next part, we will continue to unravel the depths of the Lotus Sutra and its practical applications in our lives. Let's proceed with open hearts and minds, ready to embody the wisdom of the Lotus Sutra as we move forward on our path. The Celestial Tapestry, Weaving the Threads of Enlightenment. As we ascend to the culmination of our introspective passage through the Lotus Sutra, we stand on the threshold of understanding, where wisdom transcends the written word and blossoms into the essence of lived experience. In this final part, we will weave together the threads of enlightenment that the Lotus Sutra has offered, crafting a celestial tapestry that captures the boundless potential of the human spirit. The Lotus Sutra transcends the conventional boundaries of time and space, beckoning us to partake in the eternal dance of life and death, samsara and nirvana. We recognize that the sutra's teachings are not relics of a bygone era, but are as resonant today as ever, echoing through the corridors of our modern existence. In this profound text, we find the parable of the burning house, where a wise elder lures his children from a burning house with the promise of incredible carts. This allegory unravels the layers of our attachment to transient pleasures and reveals the ultimate chariot of the one vehicle, leading us toward an unshakable peace. We are reminded that the lures of the world, while enticing, pale in comparison to the splendor of enlightenment. The Lotus Sutra affirms that all beings, regardless of their current state, can attain the supreme state of Buddhahood. This promise shatters the illusion of separation and inferiority, uniting us in a shared journey toward perfection. We recognize that our individual paths are threads in the larger tapestry of life, each essential, each contributing to the whole. One of the most powerful moments in the Lotus Sutra is the Universal Door chapter, where Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, describes the manifold forms he assumes to save beings from suffering. It is a profound testament to the boundless compassion that characterizes the Bodhisattva path. We are inspired to ask ourselves, how can we embody such compassion in our lives? How can we transform ourselves to meet the needs of those around us? The Lotus Sutra concludes with the encouragement of the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, a call to maintain faith and practice diligently after the Buddha's passing. It is a timeless exhortation to uphold the teachings and propagate them for the benefit of all. The Bodhisattva vows to keep the teachings alive, and we, in turn, inherit this noble mission. As practitioners of the Lotus Sutra, we are not passive recipients of wisdom. We are active participants in the unfolding drama of enlightenment. We engage with the sutra not as spectators but as co-creators of our destiny. The practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is not merely a vocal exercise. It is the actualization of the sutra's essence in our lives, a catalyst for profound transformation. In our hands, the Lotus Sutra becomes a living document, a beacon that guides us through the challenges of our time. We are emboldened to confront social injustices, to bridge divides, and to heal the wounds of the earth. The Sutra's vision of a world where all beings can flourish becomes our mandate for action. Finally, the Lotus Sutra's promise of enlightenment in this very body, in this very life, offers us a radical affirmation of the sanctity of the present moment. It teaches us that nirvana is not a distant realm, but is present in the here and now, waiting to be realized through our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. As we conclude our exploration of the Lotus Sutra, we understand that the journey does not end here. The final chapter is not a closure, but an opening, a gateway to limitless possibilities. The teachings of the Lotus Sutra continue to ripple outwards, touching hearts and minds, awakening the dormant potential within each being. Let us move forward with the wisdom of the Lotus Sutra as our compass, navigating the vast ocean of life with skillful means and compassionate hearts. Our collective tapestry of enlightenment grows richer with each thread we weave, each step we take toward the dawn of universal awakening. Thus concludes our celestial odyssey through the Lotus Sutra, a journey that has only just begun. Let us carry its message into the world, and may our lives reflect its luminous wisdom for the benefit of all beings. The end? No, merely a new beginning.